Good evening, everyone. We've got the wonderful and amazing Kim Kerr with us tonight, who's going to be patrolling the chat and answering any questions that I largely will not know the answer to. Kim basically knows everything and is the straw that stirs the entire drink, if you will. So Kim's going to be helping out with that. And if at any point Kim's unsure or wants me to jump in, she'll either shoot me a text or just interrupt me and be your voice. A couple of things to start with. We do not know when jersey or shorts or socks pickup is for your club. Okay, so that's a club function. You're going to have to reach out to them before 20 people put that into the chat. You're going to have to go to your club and ask them for that. What were some of the other ones, Kim? Was there any other massive CMSA club who does what kind of questions?
Not that I know of. I think that's all you had said.
Okay, cool. So check with your club. Your training schedule as well lives with your clubs, right? And we'll try and go through a little bit of that as well. If some people are brand new to this, welcome. If some people have done this multiple years in a row, welcome back. Okay, so I hope I'm just seeing things might be cutting off, so hopefully that doesn't happen, and we've got some good bandwidth and good connection here tonight. I did feed the hamsters that power my internet, so they should be nourished and ready to go. So I'm going to get rid of everyone there. Welcome tonight to the CMSA Town Hall. This is going to be for the U10 and U11 age groups. Really glad you could join us and looking forward to both the conversation and also just trying to raise people's level of awareness and really try and have an understanding of what's going to happen over about the next 6 months or so. Before we start, we want to welcome everyone and offer our land acknowledgement that in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which is the Siksika, the Kainai, the Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. It's just after Truth and Reconciliation Day, so I would encourage everyone to be curious about the land that we have settled and also the people who have come before us and their stories as well. Our mission at CMSA is that we're dedicated to working with our member organizations to develop, organize, and promote opportunities which allow all participants to achieve their full potential in a safe, meaningful, and inclusive environment. And really our vision that keeps us going is that we want to elevate and unite our community through soccer. We believe that the beautiful game is a great unifying activity that we can use to build a better culture and use to build a better city as well. Our values that we try to exhibit on a daily basis are around leadership, stewardship, integrity, excellence, and communication. So if at any point we are not exhibiting these values, or you feel like we may not be, we expect you to call us out on that. We expect you to hold us accountable to these values. We take these very seriously, and we want to make sure that we live up to that on a daily basis and within all of our interactions as well. So I've already introduced Kim Kerr earlier on the call. Kim is one of our lead coordinators, and she's going to be operating the chat tonight and answering any of your questions in that chat window. My name is Jordan Stewart. I'm the current CMSA technical manager. I've worked with players all the way from U4 to university age players. I've coached coaches as well. And prior to joining CMSA, I used to work for Alberta Soccer as their regional coach for Southern Alberta and was the Alberta Recs director. So that was the youth women's national team program that was here in Alberta. So part of my responsibilities in that role was around player development in terms of ensuring that we got talent together, talent ID, and helping them progress, but also district outreach. So trying to support the districts in Southern Alberta with developing soccer within their local area, and then also coach education all the way through to a B license level. I've got experience working in grassroots clubs up in Edmonton when I was formerly there, pro club academies with FC Edmonton that no longer exists. Like I've mentioned, a PSO in terms of Alberta soccer, youth national team development systems, colleges and universities, community outreach, and now I'm at a great home in CMSA here, and the people of Calgary continue to have me. They haven't booted me out quite yet, despite all of the chaos that is caused on a daily basis, it feels like. So before we can look forward and think about what's to come in the next season, we want to take a second to look back, acknowledge our journey with where we've come. Maybe some of your children have been a part of this as well, and really try to highlight all of the fantastic work that not only our clubs have done, but we have done, and also all of you have been a part of and taken in as well.
And with that, the 2024 season comes to an end.
So you will see in the vast majority of those videos, it's really about the player. And I'm not going to make it about the child, but we are going to make it about the player and talk about their journey and their pathway as well within the game here in this country. You'll notice that it doesn't really look like a road because it's not that defined. It's not an end point and a starting point. Typically, we'll see players enter into the game here in the 1, 2, and 3 stage in terms of our LTPD framework, and then flow upwards into stages 4, or maybe even straight to stages 7 or into 4.5 there. As you can see, this is what CMSA operates. So we operate at stages 1, 2, and 3, and also in stage 7. So that soccer for life, community, and competitive streams, but also the learn to train, the fundamentals, and the active starts going straight from U4 all the way through to U19. You'll see other entities like the APDL operating in stage 4, where they train to train, and lots of the development leagues across the country are located. And then from there, you'll see players flow through potentially into a Rex environment, into a Whitecaps Academy, and then potentially upwards into the Cavalry Academy or into senior professional football within senior national teams and the Cavalry, the Whitecaps, or the Calgary Wild as well. Maybe that doesn't happen, and you can also flow up into U Sports, college leagues, the NCAA, USL2, League One Alberta, and even UWS when it's still around as well. And if that doesn't happen as well and you're an old bugger like me, well, you can flow up as well and play in our men's leagues, our women's leagues, and even some of the co-ed leagues operated by CUSA and Calgary Women's Soccer Association. So as you can see, there's a freedom of movement throughout and up and sometimes down, but very rarely, because it is an age progression kind of diagram. And lots of the frameworks here were based on LTPD, which started in about 2008, 2009, where it laid out a framework of how we should be developing players and also what we should be working on with those children and with those players at that time. This has since evolved, and this is actually version 2 of the Canada Soccer Grassroots Standards. We'll dig in a little bit more into these, and this is the new framework that Canada Soccer has put out to help us try to align the game across the country. To promote further alignment, we produce one of these every single season, okay? It's the CMSA program handbook, and we release this usually 6 months-ish in advance for our clubs to then base their registration packages off of. So what I would ask you to do is to find this on our website. It's not that difficult. I believe it's under leagues and then rules and forms. 2 clicks and you're there. But review it against your registration info that your club produced. Is it accurate? Is it aligned? Right? These are the questions that we need to start asking of the clubs, but then also making sure that our system as well produces great alignment. And in terms of alignment and standardization, what Canada Soccer's done is they've built a model and a system around club licensing. So what club licensing does is it ensures that each one of our clubs fulfills a certain number of criteria so that there is a mark of quality and you're a part of the sanctioned soccer realm. We have 2 levels in this city out of the 4. So National Youth Club license holders are listed along the top of your screen there. And then our standards for quality soccer holders are listed along the bottom. Right between them is what's called MA1 and MA2. And none of our clubs have done those not levels, but those club licensing, well, levels is the only word in my mind. So those levels of club licensing, quite yet. We've gone from SQS all the way to National Youth Club license, and there's not much in the middle yet. Across the country, there are MA1, there are MA2s, but this gives you an idea. SQS, those clubs will have had to have satisfied 30 odd criteria, and National Youth Club license holders is 140 odd criteria. And they offer different programming as well, potentially. There is no better or worse. And I want to be really clear about that. There is no better or worse. This is not trying to say that Rangers are better than Calgary West or Villains are better than Spartans or anything like that. Okay, these are just different levels that the clubs are operating at right now, and really where they are in their own club development as well, and the standards that they have satisfied. We need to make sure that there's some clarity around what your club does and what CMSA does so that everyone has this awareness, okay? We organize all the matches in your season schedule. So those seasons schedules went live today. It's a ton of hard work done by Kim Kerr and Rachel Hugh in our office. Amazing people that have absolutely smashed it this year. And it takes an enormous amount of time, which I'll talk about in a moment here. Your club organizes your child's team practice and training sessions. So very different. We'll organize the matches. They take care of the training and the practices, okay? We, in terms of placement of your children, we work collaboratively with the member clubs to put the team in the division, okay? Your club is going to place your child onto a team within that club, all right? For coaches, we provide formal coach training. The club needs to find, retain, and develop those coaches. And then in terms of jerseys, we provide all the U7 to U9 Grassroots League jerseys from Shane Holmes, which is a fantastic sponsor and partner of ours, as long as the club orders them. Your club is going to order all of the jerseys from U10 to U19. You get them from the club. Okay, so lots of clarity there, and I hope that clears up that piece. We talked about club licensing, and what it did was when we have SQS and club licensing in, it's really impacted a large portion of coaches as well. So there's 2 levels of coach training. There's the modified Safe Sport roster and the full Safe Sport roster. So we approached our clubs and said, where should this line sit? Because the training requirements are significantly greater for a full Safe Sport roster requirement. The discussion went from, well, it might be at this tier or it could be at these ages, et cetera, to a place where we found that between U11 and then into U12 is that line between a modified Safe Sport roster in terms of training requirements for coaches and a full Safe Sport roster in terms of training requirements. And so we've tried to produce materials to make it simple and to say, well, all of our coaches need to make sure that they achieve this. Okay. Since we're talking about the U10 and 11s tonight, what you would then do is you would flow through and they would complete these two courses. Now, with the modified Safe Sport roster, it's only up to a theory portion. Okay. So anything else, practical and lower down here, is completely up to the coach. We encourage them to do the training. It's very valuable, but it's completely up to them. Okay. And so what do? Well, we try to monitor it, right? Because what used to happen is the clubs would put one person who had maybe completed respect in sport on all of the club rosters and say, well, we have an eligible coach. That's no longer good enough. All of our team officials need to be doing this. And really, it's about the clubs doing what's right, not what's easy. And this has been said multiple times that their willingness to adhere to some of these basic standards is going to determine their longevity in soccer. Okay. What are some of those coaching standards? Well, here's what the expectation would be. Okay. So previously in CMSA, before club licensing, all coaches had to do was to do an electronic police information check, okay, with a vulnerable sector search. So that is done through the Calgary Police Service or through any of the surrounding area RCMP detachments for those clubs and people that are around Calgary. Then they would do respect in sport activity leader. That was it. Now what we've seen with club licensing is that coaches need to also do that theory component, which is in this little star here in this box. And then we highly recommend that they come and spend 4 hours with a learning facilitator, learn some tricks, learn some tips, and then they'll be a better coach when they walk out of that. Okay. That's the practical on-field coaching course. So that's what we ask of them. If you're interested in doing any of that on-field coach education and you are a coach on this call tonight, we've got loads of options for you. We've been able to expand our offering this indoor, luckily, and we've been able to offer more courses. Okay, so lots of options to meet the schedules. If those courses aren't on our CMSA Demisphere website yet, they will be very, very shortly, especially the ones in November, December, and February. We're just in the process of putting those on. If you're curious as well, we have offered what we call the Technical Culture Series. So we'll bring in experts from around the world, around the country, to share their knowledge, to help us upskill our coaches informally, largely in the form of a lunch and learn type format. There's also the MLS Next produces a goalkeeper education series that you can look up and find online. And Making Headway has undergone a refresh that is now genuinely world-class and has been rewritten by the people who wrote the International Consensus Statement on Concussion Awareness and Prevention. So genuine world-class information that we're trying to get out to our coaches as well. To give you an example of this, Martin is an expert player developer who was working for the Czech FA at the time. He's now in Slavia Praha as their director of methodology and instructs on UEFA Pro level courses. Chris McKeag now works for the Vancouver Whitecaps, but in a previous time was a FIFA licensed agent as well. So if your children are wanting to pursue a professional career in football, I would encourage you to go and find this Technical Culture series in particular with Chris, because he breaks it down, how agents work, how the business side of the game works, and gives parents a lot of practical tools to have great discussions. So if your child is showing a high level of talent and a high level of drive towards the game, that is a must watch I would recommend for you. We've also tried to improve our team official photo ID process, because previously the clubs would just send coaches into our office to get a photo ID. At any point, we would print it and say, away you go. Well, we knew that there was a certain amount of risk involved with that. So any new team official that is coming in this season needs to come and get a photo ID, but they need to ensure that they have satisfied all of the Safe Sport requirements based on their role. So for team managers on the left here, You've got to do your police clearance and your respect in sport. For our coaches, you need an NCCP number, which is easy to get. It takes minutes. You need to do your police clearance. Respect in sport has to be completed, and learn to train theory completed as well, which we've already talked about. Then, and only then, will we be giving you a photo ID. Because we want to make sure that the game is safe, and we want to make sure that our coaches are of a really high standard. And part of that as well is around the code of conduct. A lot of people haven't even heard of this. It's not formally signed off on. So I would encourage you to go back, because this recording will be uploaded to YouTube, or to find this within our rules and regs. I'm not going to go through all of them right now, but this is key, because this is how we measure ourselves and our conduct within the game. Building on that, there's also a parent code of conduct, and there's also a player code of conduct. Because really, it's up to us in the community to set the standard and what we expect in terms of conduct from each other. So we're going to set what's acceptable and what's not acceptable for this indoor. And I like this picture because at the end of the day, if we choose to lower our standards, we choose to be angry, to be aggressive, to demean, to behave poorly, well, really, we're just wrestling with a pig at the end of the day. And pigs love to wrestle in you-know-what, and we just get covered in you-know-what when we choose to wrestle with pigs. So I'm going to implore upon everyone on the call tonight that you are now the champions in terms of behavior and conduct and cultural architects that we want out in the community to make this game better and our ecosystem better. This is a key piece. We can elevate this and make this better. And part of it on the sidelines is around our field marshals. So they will be designated by an orange armband. So this empowers one individual parent from each team to speak up on behalf of the referee, really, among the fellow parents and spectators. Now, I've sat in the stands in street clothes and listened to parents mock this and have a laugh and, oh, who's the field marshal? You should go and say something. And then they all giggle about it. The reality is that when we turn a blind eye to some of these harassment, discrimination, abuse kind of behaviors, well, then we're just enabling them. And that's not what we want to do, because we're not going to tolerate any abuse towards the referees at all or anyone else within the game. We want to support positive sporting behaviors and encourage parents to cheer, not critique. And this is a key differentiation, okay? The field marshals as well, we want them involved in the pregame chat with referees and coaches and captains so that there's a humanization of everyone, so that the referee knows who they're looking for in the stands, and so that they feel comfortable knowing that someone up there has got their back. Okay? Now, big riot act, big soapbox piece. Let's get to a piece that I know people are very interested in given the day as well. So how does CMSA build your schedule? Well, it's a massive process. And as I've already tried to say, Kim and Rachel are two of the best, and they work tirelessly on this. So what happens? Well, earlier in September, we tell all the clubs to put in all of their teams that they have. So sometimes they'll have to guess a little bit and say, well, we think we're going to have a team there and have a team there, blah, blah, blah. They put all of those teams in. We then compile them, and we go through what's called the Club Connect. So we will bring all of the clubs together. We sit in a room and we put up all the teams on the screen. We say, right, the U10 Dev Plus boys, is this a good group? All of these groups are going to have meaningful competition throughout the year. And the clubs go, well, maybe move that one there, and what's your group like, and this and that. And they have really rich discussions about what those divisions look like. So we try our best with our technical directors and technical staff from the clubs, because at the end of the day, it's them that are the experts. Because if I make it out to 50 games a year, that's about 1% or less than 1% of total games that are played in CMSA. So I can't be everywhere. So I need to rely on all of them to make sure that they hold each other accountable and that they're acting in the players' and team's best interests. We then finalize all of those divisions. We send them out to the clubs again, and they say, oh, we missed one. Make sure that one's there, bop, bop, bop. And they give it back to us. Then we compare all of those leagues to all of the field permits that we get. And you're going to hear about the fields later on here tonight. Kim and Rachel then build the schedule based on all of these teams and all of the random fields that we get given. And some people will think, well, it's easy. You just put it into a computer program, hit a button, and it spits it out. Well, it's not that easy because we don't have regular and consistent field permits to be able to neatly schedule all of that. So what happens? Well, Kim and Rachel have to go over every single schedule and it gets manipulated by hand still. Okay? This is a time-consuming process. Then what happens? Well, everyone gets their schedule today, and then they go away and they say, oh, we'd really like to go to that tournament or this or that or the next thing. And then we have to reschedule a whole bunch of games and shift things around anyway. The season gets played, and then what happens? Well, we do it all again the next year. And so over 5,500 games will be played this year within CMSA. So it's a monumental scheduling task. And honestly, Kim and Rachel deserve a massive round of applause for the work that they do and produce every single year. A couple other global initiatives that I just wanted to speak to quickly is Empower Her, which is our women and girls in soccer advocacy and also initiatives. Okay. It is taken, I don't want to say a bit of a backseat, or we've had to reallocate some time and such, and we haven't done as much here as what we've wanted to, but we have a renewed commitment going into 2026 to be focusing on this area of the game for sure. We are not trying to say women and girls are less important. We've just had to tweak things with limited time and resources, etc., to try and accomplish some other pieces. But some of the successes, well, we've launched She Can Ref, which is powered by the CDSRA, which is the Calgary District Referees Association, that will connect female officials, that will help develop them in a safe environment and in a female-only environment, which is really beautiful and is turning out to be a really welcoming and fantastic thing. We also offer female-only entry-level courses to attract more women and girls to refereeing, because it is shocking when you think about it that there isn't a female official in Calgary. There might be one now, but there isn't any to referee in the NSL where the Calgary Wild FC play. So our women's professional team don't have any local female Calgary referees that can referee their games. We also try to do a Free Soccer Friday in and around International Women's Day. So this coming International Women's Day, we'll have another Free Soccer Friday there. Changing gears into the referees, you would have seen that teal shirt 2 slides ago. Well, what that is that's our anti-abuse campaign. And really it's an acknowledgement of those first-year referees. That teal shirt that they wear says on the back of it, first-year referee. We take abuse towards these people very, very seriously. We're trying to bring referees in. And in the U10 and U11 age groups, you're going to have a lot of brand new referees. Okay? They are going to make mistakes. I promise. They are going to screw it up. I promise. But if we cannot accept some mistakes, then we will have no development for them over the long term. And all of your children, when they are 13 and 15, there won't be any referees for them. So again, cheer, not critique. Okay? We need to support this crew because there's some that come in and they are exceptional and they have incredibly high ceilings and they will be fantastic referees. We want to nurture them. And we do nurture them through our mentorship campaign. So our mentorship work will occur over the first about 20 games of their refereeing career, and we try to make it out to between 4 and 6 of those. Someone's going to say, well, that's not enough. I agree. It's not enough. But indoor works a little bit better, that we should have mentors there more frequently and offer more development time for them. We're also offering monthly education sessions for all of our referees to come to, free of charge. And we are mandating that if they want to keep their rating, that they need to attend 2 per year. Is that enough? No, but it's a start. And we want to continue to build both the volume and quality of our referees. Okay? And if any of your children might be receiving kids sport funding and are interested in refereeing, one, it's phenomenal pay. Two, flexible schedule. Three, you've got the best seat in the house. And four, you get fit and you get paid for it. If you're receiving kids sport funding, you can go through kids sport and go through what's called Project Ref, where they will pay for all of the ref training that your child needs, and then they get a part-time job out of it as well. So they're going to develop leadership skills, conflict resolution skills, communication, all of these other skills, along with getting a pretty decent paycheck. Okay? Now, I've mentioned the abuse piece. I'm not going to take too much of the time here, but we do have that zero tolerance policy in effect. It's reportable by anyone, and it gives referees additional powers that they can say, whoa, 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 nah, this is getting too crazy. We're going to take a timeout, and we're not starting the game again until people settle down. They can also say, we're abandoning the match. They can walk off. They still get paid, and the match is not being rescheduled or replayed. So the kids are going to miss out, the coaches are missing out, the parents miss out on watching, and the referee can say, I'm out, and get in their car and go home. So the key takeaway, if I could summarize that entire policy, coaches, just coach. Don't bother questioning. They're not going to change their mind anyway. Parents, cheer, don't abuse or critique, and players, play, don't dissent. Okay? What do you do if, for some unknown reason, there is a no-show with the referees? Now, last indoor, we had, I think, a 99.96% coverage rate in terms of available referee slots. Okay? If, for some magical reason, a referee no-shows or both referees no-show, both teams have to agree on who's refereeing. Okay? The game still gets played, and the teams, if they want, can split the refereeing duties by halves. So Team A does one half, Team B does the second half. And maybe, just maybe, there's a parent or a sibling present that's a trained referee. Go and ask them to come and referee the game, and then they can write their name on the game sheet, and then they get paid just for showing up and spectating from the best seat in the house. Okay? A couple last pieces, and then we'll get into the 10s and 11s, I promise. Tournaments and events. We have got a couple of events coming up. For the U7s to 9s, it's the Santa Soccer Saturday on the 13th. And then if you're interested in a great winter tournament this year, it's the All-State Family Day Classic, which is February 13th to 16th over the Family Day long weekend. Always high demand, so register early. Otherwise, you'll probably miss out. Free Soccer Friday is a vital piece for CMSA. It's a drop-in soccer opportunity. It's a fantastic way to go and play in an unstructured environment that is going to connect the community and develop your children's social and life skills. Someone's going to say, well, our kids don't develop if there's no coaches running the session. Well, no, that just means there's no adults there to screw it up, really. What the common threads in talent development are worldwide are things like this: access to facility, unstructured environments, mixed age play. And you know what Free Soccer Friday does? All of those things. So some people view this as people who can't afford soccer, they go, they play, it's barrier free, it's accessible. It's that. It's also a decent talent development opportunity where kids can go in and self-organize, to start their own games, to do their own thing, to work on whatever they want in a safe environment that is adult-free. Okay? The upcoming dates are the 17th, November 7th, and November 14th. They're all at Calgary Soccer Centre. They're all in the annex. You will see, though, sometimes there's only one field. So it can get incredibly busy on those days. So I would say plan early, register early, and all of the information is on Calgary Minor Soccer's website. If for some reason we get an enormous dump of snow this year and there's adverse driving conditions, all the CMSA games are going to proceed unless the City of Calgary closes roads due to winter conditions, okay? So there's no point in shooting us an email. There's no point in calling us, okay? This is how it is. Unless the roads are closed, the games go ahead, okay? So maybe you leave a bit of extra time. Lastly, potentially our most important campaign that we genuinely need all of you on this call for. There's 94 of you. There has been 97 tonight. Massive turnout. If you have not registered for this yet, you need to do so. And there'll be a QR code coming up in a couple of slides that we need you to make sure that you register on. What is this? Well, Fields for Our Future is our advocacy campaign because we're running out of room. Our indoor game is at capacity, right? We're experiencing unprecedented growth in terms of team numbers and players, and we're anticipating a significant growth after the World Cup. What we don't want to have happen is to say only these amounts of players at these age groups can play, because some of your kids will likely miss out. Okay, this isn't a fear tactic. This is just the realities. We will have to put up a no vacancy sign at some point. And some people will say, well, there's loads of outdoor fields. You're right. You're right. In various states of disrepair, and the weather actually canceled around 400 games in outdoor. And then the year before was 222 plus the smoke, etc. So loads of games, even in an outdoor capacity, could have been played with covered facilities. So what are we advocating for, and what do we need your help for? Well, we want field houses built. The game plan money that's been allocated, we want to make sure we are vocal and we are front of mind in City Council to make sure that a field house or 2 or 3 or 8 get built. Okay? We also want to enhance the existing infrastructure. Okay? Because some of our fields, as I've alluded to, are in various states of disrepair that we rent from the city of Calgary or rent from private owners. And we also want to increase our collaboration with the city so that CMSA and soccer has an input on how those facilities are ran and designed. And so as of April, okay, this is our campaign impact in progress. We're meeting with government officials to discuss this, to find funding. But we need you to be posting on social media. We need you to be emailing those government officials, because we've only got about 2,500 supporters, which is about 5% of our membership is actually signed up. 5%. So on this call, there are 90 of you that haven't even signed up yet. Okay, so here's what I'm asking of you. I'm asking you to join. I'm asking you to pull out a phone, to follow that QR code and join. This is the easiest email you can send to a government official you'll ever see. It emails you saying something about, we need you, you click a link, you literally click send email on the browser window that opens, done. That's it. That is it. It's so simple. It literally takes 10 seconds each time. Okay, so call to action, that is your call to action. And now we get into the good stuff. I'm going to come up for air for a second and just give the chat a quick look. Kim, is there anything that I need to be aware of?
Nope. I've
Really?
answered them all.
Amazing. Kim is smashing it. So thank you, Kim. We're keeping us on pace. Indoor. We need to say a massive thank you to a huge sponsor that's come on board. Papa John's has been exceptional. You've probably seen the emails come through your inbox. Please use the code CMSA20 for 20% off your team's pizza party, your family's Friday movie night and pizza night, your kid's birthday. This is going to help us to continue offering the beautiful game at a decent, affordable rate, or as affordable as we can. And we want to say a massive thank you to Papa John's, because they've sponsored the full U10 league. So round of applause for them. They've stepped up huge, and not going to lie, they do make great pizza as well. So get there. Yes, some other people are applauding. Good, excellent. This is the kind of community support we love. I said that we were going to talk about the Canada Soccer Grassroots Standards. We are going to dive in a little bit. What did we do? Well, we went through and we audited ourselves in terms of CMSA. And we went, are we compliant? Are we not compliant? Is this not even our realm? Is this a club thing? Or do we need dispensation to ask for? And here's where it all boiled down. So you'll see a ton of check marks, okay? You'll also see here, if you look down this column here, is the U10s and 11. You'll see how compliant we are right now. You'll see things like this. Do we respect the practice to match ratio? We try our best, and our set schedule that we come out with is probably 90 to 95% there. Then when we reschedule all over the place, no, it becomes not compliant. So we can't give ourselves a check mark there. You'll see things like practice to match ratio. Well, that's club determined at a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 at the very most ratio. So I would ask you, what is your club pressuring you to sign up for? It'll give you practice durations as well. So if your club wants to say, come train for 2.5 hours, no. Let's talk about that. Match day rosters. Right now, we are not compliant because our maximum is set to 20 players, not what Canada Soccer is asking for. We've aligned to Alberta Soccer's rules. Okay? You'll see here, dribble or pass in. We're going to talk about how this is changing into a check mark this season and how this is changing into a check mark this season with the retreat line, which we're going to get into. The second page, we did the exact same thing. Where are we good? Where are we naughty? Where do we need to ask for some help? Well, there are some aspects where we need to ask for dispensation around travel time, because there are moments when a West Hills team will play a team in Strathmore in outdoor, and it is borderline an hour in terms of a trip. Okay, when Lethbridge is coming up to play in Calgary, it's more than an hour. So we might need to ask for some dispensation. Okay, you'll also see things like scores and standings in tournaments here as well, where we are currently not compliant either. Okay, the rest, we're ticking the boxes. We're choosing to be really well aligned. And this is a conscious choice that requires a lot of work. I would ask you to dig up this document in this form without the check marks, without the X's, etc., and go and ask the club that you're with. What does it look like for them? Are there check marks? Are there lots of X's? But ask them. Okay? So what does the season structure look like for everyone? Well, the devs, we're going to try to regionalize it as best we can. Okay, so we try to base these groups based on some sort of geography to keep the game as local as possible. It's going to be 14 games. The season kicks off in a few short days here and then ends next March. Okay, the 10s and 11s are going to play in a 7v7 format, the same as what they play in outdoor as well. So nice and consistent for them. In terms of the Dev Plus group, it's citywide. There are 1, 2, and 3 subgroups. Okay, there's 14 games, and again, the same kickoff and finish. Apologies for the typo there. It should be October 14th, not 24th. My chubby fingers must have gotten in the way. And again, they will play in a 7v7 format as well. Okay? That should be really clear to people. Okay? We're going to get into a couple of pieces here that help to manage competition, because this is a question that comes up a little bit. Okay? One piece to begin with. Something that we offer across all of our leagues is what's called an age exemption. It was formerly called biobanding, and due to some insurance companies not liking that, well, we had to modify it to age exemptions, okay? What this is this is a player placement strategy around the player's physical maturation, not their chronological age. So what does that mean? It means how I've matured as a child, not how old I am on a calendar. Okay, so I might be smaller. I might have a mental impairment. I might have a learning disability. I might have a really good friend because I've been held back in school a year that plays on that team. And we want to try and help these kids to progress through the game in a safe and in a meaningful way. So we have a process in place in terms of trying to evaluate the age exemptions. And we've asked the clubs for development plans for these children that they want to age exempt, so play down in age, essentially, or maybe in their biological age due to their maturation. And we have expectations around that. The expectations are that they inform the other clubs and teams in their division, that they don't use this as a way to just put ringers, if you will, down to then just win games and age exempt players that should not be age exempt. Okay, what does our process look like? Well, the club submits the application to CMSA through the website. It's a form that they fill out and they submit it to us. We then evaluate it like this. Is there another team at a lower tier within the same age group in that same club that could accommodate this player? It's a simple yes or no. If there is, well, let's talk about the development plan for this player and why you're doing it as the club. Okay? If there is not that team in that club at a lower tier, is there evidence that the club has made reasonable attempts to find another club at the same age group and tier for this player? What we have happen is we have clubs that will just convince parents and convince players to stay at a club and do this, which isn't for their development. It's to keep a registration at the club. Okay? So is there evidence that they've tried to essentially find another home for your child? Yes or no? If there is, submit the correspondence to CMSA with that child's development plan. Like, hey, we've tried and it didn't happen. We couldn't make it work, whatever it is. Okay, let's talk about that. If you haven't even tried it, we're not even looking at it. Okay? So we want these players and children to be in a great environment that is going to support their individual development as well. Okay? That's the process. All right? You should see this indoor. Okay? We talk about this in outdoor as well, but within the indoor, our 7v7 goal and field standards for our U10 and 11s, 6 by 12 foot goals. Now, we are working really hard right now in the 11th hour to try and make sure some of the facilities have these goals in place. They might even have them in the facility and not change them over for the game. Indoor is really hard because we deal with many different facility operators and it's a difficult one to coordinate. They should be 6 by 12. Do not be shocked if there's variance here. If you show up and they're 6 by 18 and they look and feel huge, do not be shocked. We want to know, though, if that's what's happening, because we're meeting with facilities like Shoaldice, like Macron, like the Calgary Soccer Center to make sure that we get into the operational flow of changing the 6 by 18 out for the 6 by 12 and then reversing it when need be. Okay? You should also see consistency in terms of field size. Now, consistency doesn't mean exact, okay? Because there are field ranges, which you can see on your screen here, okay? Right, like that. Typically, what we're asking for is 50 by 30, okay? That's what you should see. The 10s and 11s will have a retreat line, which we will talk about in a moment. That retreat line is going to look a little bit different across the centers. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Another piece that you are going to see and what we would expect your clubs to be utilizing is what's called open rosters. Open rosters is moving away from that static team hierarchy and moving into a more fluid club-based or group-based kind of environments that's really more player-centric at the end of the day. This is not about having a top team and then a bunch of lower teams, okay? This, at the end of the day, is about ensuring that every player can get meaningful minutes and that the clubs can be more bespoke with their player development. It allows players to move fluidly between the member club's rosters in that age group, okay? Or potentially up an age group in terms of a play up. As soon as they want to move down an age group, that's where those age exemptions come into play, okay? Our goal with this is to foster and find meaningful competition for your children. It is not to separate talent, but it's to expand opportunity so that there might be moments when players that may be developmentally advanced do move down, if you will, into another team that there might be great competition for them in that game, or that team needs a bit of extra help in that game. We want to have as even of games as possible, as often as possible. And so we have given the clubs a lot of autonomy in this. What this is not is just chopping and changing kids all over the place and you have no idea where you're coming and going. Okay? Our goal is to allow clubs to be able to help your children develop in a meaningful way. Okay? Strong players can lead by maybe supporting others, right? And players that maybe would be not on the starting seven or maybe not one of the top players on one of those teams aren't just stuck on the bench, but they're given the chance to grow at a pace that fits their current stage and their current development, because all the players are not at the exact same level. Even within a team, they're not at the same level. So we want to make sure that we can give them an opportunity to develop through the game. Okay? Hooah. We'll dive into this. Actually, wait. Sorry. We want to talk about this because we want to make sure that there's clarity here around Dev and Dev Plus and what that is. Okay? What that is and what the definitions are is this. And clubs, some clubs are warping and twisting this, is what I would say. The Dev Plus, you're typically looking for a more full-time program. You want more activity, more soccer activity probably a week, and your kid loves soccer. This would be a criteria that you would think, oh, Dev Plus might be the right spot for them. You will notice it says nothing about ability. Current, perceived, subjective ability is not in here because all of the talent ID and talent development research does not support us grouping best with best 9 and 10-year-olds together to then produce, which is the wrong word anyway, better players in a professional sense, or to keep more of them involved for longer. The research, the data does not support that. It does not show that. So we want to be really clear with what Dev Plus is, regardless of ability. It is about interest and motivation. Okay? Developmental. You're maybe looking for a more part-time program and you love a variety of activities. Your family goes ice climbing through the winter or skiing. You want less per week because you're jammed up with piano lessons and Girl Guides and whatever else you've got going on. Great. It is not ability-based either. Okay? I want to be really clear with everyone. I want to be really clear with some other pieces here around strategies that we have in place for coaches and clubs to use when or if there are lopsided games. We have the 4-up, 1-up, where the team that is behind by 4 or more goals can put an extra player on the field so they can play 7v8. That's okay. That's okay. The challenge is then increased by a group of players that clearly needs that. And it's a little easier for the group of players that clearly need that as well. We give clubs the opportunity to mix them up. Literally, to bring bibs to the game and go, woof, this one's not going to be meaningful today. I'm going to take my front players and play them against my defenders or against players that are playing in the back today. And we're going to swap front for front players and away we go. We're just going to have a meaningful hour with these players rather than turning up and it's 11 or 12 or 15-0. Useless for everyone. Okay? This is where open rosters, these strategies come into play to help with that, as well as all of those league alignment meetings, the club connects, empowering the clubs to put their groups in the right spots, etc. We've got lots of mechanisms here to try to make sure that doesn't happen. It is purely down to the work that clubs want to put in and coaches want to put in if that happens. And we have to work hard. Okay? The last piece is around swapping goalkeepers. Teams can just swap goalkeepers. If one goalkeeper hasn't seen a lot of action for a little while, just swap them. And maybe they get to work in possession with their feet, And the other goalkeeper then that was working in possession with their feet gets to face some leather and stop some shots and work on that aspect, or work on organizing the other team and communicating. These are developmental activities. And so we want to make sure that that comes about. Other pieces in terms of developmental activities and what we touched on briefly with the Canada Soccer Grassroots Standards are around modifying the laws of the game. So the actual rules that these players play by are modified. You'll notice a pass in, dribble in, indirect free kicks, subs at stoppages, penalty kicks and retreat lines that we are going to dive into right now. Okay, so what is the retreat line? Okay, the retreat line is a valuable tool. And we know that in the ever-evolving world of soccer, we have to prepare these young children for the future game. Well, what does or could the future game look like? Well, it'll probably revolve around maintaining possession of the ball with coordinated build-up from the goalkeeper, or fast transitional moments as well. Or probably or fast transitional moments as well. Because every player is going to be required to make appropriate decisions based on numerous cues from the match. Where's my teammates? Where's the opponents? Where's the space? Where's the goalkeeper? What moment of the game are we in? What position of the field are we in, etc. While having the ability to maintain possession through the thirds while under consistent pressure. The game is getting faster, without question. So if we're preparing these children for the future game, we need to do things like this. And we've approached it from this lens, which is adapted from Dan Abraham's psychosocial model in terms of four-corner development. We're choosing to look at it that the mental, social, and emotional piece is important, and it's going to fuel the physical, technical, and tactical outcomes. But we need to make sure that we acknowledge that in the culture of Calgary and the culture of soccer as well, and that our outcomes are going to be around participation and progression and then performance. If we can move players through that and maintain all of them, we are having massive success. This is the rationale as to what the retreat line does across all of those corners. Okay, I'll let you read this on the recording. All right, but as you can see, it's things like improved decision making, which is a vital skill that we need players to be able to do, is make good decisions. They're going to improve their speed, their balance, their agility, right? Can they play penetrating passes? Can you receive on the half turn or face forward when you receive? All of these pieces are very, very important. And when the retreat line is used, you will see that you get better passing sequences. Okay? When it's not used, you'll see that you get less than 3 passes a lot in comparison to the other. Okay? If the first pass is long from the retreat line, you'll see it results in less than 3 passes typically, and no passing sequences really. If it's short, you'll see way fewer 3-pass sequences, and this is all from the Scottish FA that did a retreat line study. There is value to the retreat line. New Zealand did a study around it as well in terms of how effective it was. Well, only 20% of those long kicks from goalkeepers are successful. Why are we doing that? Right? There's an increase in playing out from the back, in helping them understand the game, and in controlled possession in midfield areas. That's moving the ball through the thirds, as I talked about earlier. You'll also see teams are more likely to regain defensive positions so that you can tactically get your team together as a coach and go and press and win the ball back. And you can change that when you see fit. And the feedback is generally quite positive around the retreat line from this study. Okay, so what is it? Well, what is it is this has gone through a bit of a modification this year to better align to the Canada Soccer Grassroots Standards. Previously, the retreat line was at the halfway line. It is now at the 1/3 mark of the field, which is going to be 18 meters from the goal line. Okay, this is going to be marked with cones on the sideline that coaches need to bring. So if you're a coach and your club hasn't told you that, this is your telling, if you will. This is your message. You need to bring cones. This is the decision that the clubs have decided on. as I've alluded to, there's 5,500 games throughout CMSA. We cannot just leave cones out all the time. They will grow legs and walk away. Okay. We also cannot paint on all of these fields. Okay. So we need to find solutions. So at places like Calgary Soccer Center in the boarded fields, there will be a Velcro line along the field. If it's not there, the coaches are expected to put the cones out. The referees are expected to be checking the distance. Okay. Places like Macron, Shoaldice, Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome, the Calgary Soccer Center Dome, Genesis Center, all of those places will likely have cones. Okay? I hope that that's really, really clear. How does it work? Well, it's in effect, the retreat line's in effect in two situations in the game. Okay? So say the ball leaves the playing field, and it's a goal kick. Well, all of that team, the defending team, has to go behind the retreat line, and the referee is going to be looking for this, okay? Once the ball is kicked or clearly moves, this is the other modification from outdoor. Once it's kicked or clearly moves, that retreat line goes away. What it was previously is when the ball exits the penalty area or when it's touched by a teammate. No. When it is kicked or clearly moves, that's when the red team can break across that retreat line and look to go and press and win the ball back. Okay? We'll give you another scenario because this I want to make sure is very, very clear. Say it's another goal kick. Again, one of the two situations that the retreat line comes into play. Once the ball is kicked or clearly moves, this time a teammate goes and receives inside the goal area. That would mean the retreat line is gone and the red team can then go and press and win the ball back. The second situation when the retreat line is active is this. There's a foul to the defending team inside their penalty area. You'll hear the referee blow their whistle. Good. Red team would drop behind the retreat line. And then once the ball is kicked or clearly moves, the red team can go and press. Even if the ball goes across that retreat line. Does not matter. Okay? Once it's kicked or clearly moves, the game is live. Right? Other options that you'll see maybe goalkeepers go through or players taking a goal kick. Okay? There is opportunity for them to play long. But we want to make sure that players are recognizing the cues to play long and that it's not just aimlessly punted down the field. Because as the 92 people that are still on the call have just learned, that's not going to result in a modern or future style of the game. So if your coaches are doing this, talk to your club and encourage them to keep the ball and to have players working on their skills. Now, I'm not saying you can't kick it long, okay? Because when it's on, sure, play long and look to go and attack, okay? Obviously, playing short to anyone, as soon as it's kicked or clearly moves, the retreat line goes away. Okay? An infraction of the retreat line looks like this, right? So say it goes out again, one of the two scenarios, the goal kick. This player is not behind the retreat line yet. So what's going to happen? Well, the second official should be raising their hand and getting the attention of that center official. Okay? The center official is going to blow their whistle and give some instruction, right? That's what this means. They want to be talking to the players and helping them and getting them to move back behind the retreat line. Okay? Then play will be restarted. All right. The other modification is around the pass in and dribble in, okay? The intent is to have play restarted quickly and allow players to make soccer decisions based on the cues and information that's presented to them. We want them to be refining their techniques and fundamental actions like dribbling and passing. Okay? A throw-in is not a fundamental soccer action. That is a specialized technique, typically that fullbacks will use at older ages. Throw-ins are not needed. Okay? Someone on the call is going to say, well, we need to teach them the game. Teaching them the game is predominantly dribbling and passing and shooting, controlling the ball. That's teaching the game. A throw-in is not necessarily teaching the game. Okay? What the pass in and dribble in is not, is it is not an opportunity for coaches to just have another set piece and another kick in. There's a deliberate reason why we say pass in. It's not about kicking the ball aimlessly down the field towards the opponent's goal, hoping to take advantage of children's lack of willingness to head the ball or capitalize on mistakes that young and developing children are going to make in those situations. Not the philosophy on this. And people are going to use it like that. But we're going to choose to be optimistic about it. That's not just going to be lumping it down the field. Okay? We want this to be done appropriately. We don't want to have to put in some ridiculous rules around it has to be below knee height or it can only go 10 yards or whatever. We don't want to do that. So use this appropriately if you're a coach, okay? It looks like there's a quick question in the chat. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to look at that. Is developmental at this age appropriate for a child that has not played soccer previously? It's a great question. Developmental and developmental plus, obviously they're different. If your child's super interested and really motivated, maybe it's developmental plus to build on that love of the sport. A good starting point would probably be developmental though, and see what it's like, see how it operates, see how they feel, and then go from there. That would be my recommendation for that. Okay? So great starting point. Again, new to soccer doesn't mean that they're going to be bad. They could be fantastic. Great movers that pick up the game really quickly. And maybe they're the next Vanessa Gilles, who started playing soccer at 16 years old and is the starting center back for our women's national team. Right? It happens. What is the pass in? Well, the pass in looks like this. Previously, you would have had the ball on the touchline, right? It's awarded to the team that did not touch the ball last after it went over the touchline. So if, in this case, Blues would have touched the ball last as it exited the field of play, either on the ground or in the air. Okay? Play must be restarted within 4 seconds. 4 seconds. If you fail to restart the game within 4 seconds, bang, change of possession, blue team's ball, away they go. Okay? Pass in looks like that. You can just pass the ball straight into a teammate. That simple. Okay? You'll notice that it wasn't just knocked into here for someone to head the ball in or something like that, or a goalkeeper to fumble it and someone to have a tap in. You'll notice it. An incorrect interpretation is this. If you just kick the ball straight from there into the goal and it doesn't touch anyone, it is considered an indirect restart. Same as a throw-in would be. So the correct restart then, after that happens, is actually a goal kick for that team. So then you would see the loss of possession there, and the blue team would regain it and be able to play out. A dribble-in is very similar. It has to take a minimum of 2 touches to restart the game. So they would dribble the ball into the field in any direction that they want. Okay? What you will notice is that they can go left, they can go forward, they can go backwards, it doesn't matter. All opponents, whether it's a pass-in or dribble-in, have to be a minimum of 3 meters from the ball. So someone asked me, well, how far is that? That's about the length of a horse plus a half of a horse. So a horse and a half away. Okay? Let's work off of that. If the opponent's too close, you'll hear the center official blow their whistle and give some instruction. And if it's close to the second official, they will back them up 3 meters. Okay? They'll then exit, and then play can be resumed by a pass-in or a dribble-in, whichever the player chooses and prefers. Okay? Hopefully that's really, really, really clear. We always get questions about where does all the money go? We always get those questions. So we're going to be upfront and transparent with everyone on the call. This here, this is how much CMSA collects from your club per player for indoor. Indoor is expensive to run. Okay? From this, we pay Alberta Soccer a fee as well per player. And their fee is $10 per player. Okay? you will notice the CMSA fee. Really what we have left is 219, 219, 229, and 229. Okay? This is the price per match day that the players essentially are billed. Facilities, referees, etc. That's the price per match day. Okay, across 14 games. What do those fees go to? Well, the majority of them go towards booking fields for games and paying the referees and those league-related expenses. Okay? There is a very small portion of the fees that go to contribute toward future facility projects and upgrades like the Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome, which has a 11-a-side FIFA Pro quality turf pitch in it, and also funding the Shouldice Bubble, which CMSA has a third funded that project. There's a donation to Kid Sports so that we can make sure that soccer is accessible for kids who maybe can't afford to be playing, because Kid Sport funds soccer to the tune of almost $1 million, if not more than $1 million, in terms of registration fees now in Calgary alone. Okay. Obviously, I mentioned it, Alberta and Canada Soccer both collect some of the fees. Some of it goes to local referee development, okay, so that we can make that education accessible and available for them. And then lastly, the smallest portion goes to help pay for CMSA staff and trying to ensure that Calgary Soccer is run efficiently and we continue to innovate. We can always do better. We know that. But we continue to try to do more and produce better while being cost effective and budget conscious. Okay? That is our goal. When or if an injury happens, here's the process. You got to go see a doctor and get a doctor's note and diagnosis. Fill out the form on Alberta Soccer's website, and it has to be done within 30 days. Okay? That then enables you to access the Alberta Soccer insurance that you pay for. Okay? You're going to use your personal insurance first, if that exists, right? And then Alberta Soccer's insurance will kick in after that, as long as you have filed the claim within 30 days. We know that physio and rehab expenses can add up incredibly quickly, and they can exhaust these resources very fast. So make sure that you are filing the claim if or when your child does get injured. Okay? Whew. On that, I will breathe. I will say thank you, and I will leave you with this last image on the left-hand side of your screen, where a lot of the time within the soccer community, we were pulling things in different directions from clubs or governing bodies or parents or referees or anywhere. We're not going to make much progress very quickly unless we operate on the right-hand side, where we're rowing the boat in the same direction and we're pulling the game forward in the same direction. Okay? We've got tons of club buy-in. This culture is improving year over year, and I am excited for this indoor season that's upcoming. Should you have questions that maybe weren't answered tonight or something pops up, please ask your club first. And if you can't get an answer from your club, you can feel free to email us or phone us on the information that's on your screen. Okay, or visit our website as well, because we have a ton of educational resources on our website. All right, maybe that's the first port of call as well. So thank you all for this evening. Please follow along with us on social media if you choose. We've got some great bits on there, and our marketing team works incredibly hard, both producing informative and also entertaining content as well on those streams. So please follow us, and thank you so much for the time tonight. We know that you could be anywhere in the world doing anything, so thank you for giving up an evening to share with us. And I want to acknowledge everyone's curiosity tonight, and also looking through the questions, the absolute monster amount of questions as well that we've helped to answer. So thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you on the pitch this year. I'm going to stick around and answer any sort of questions that pop up, and make sure that no question is left for this evening. Okay? Thanks, Kim, again for answering so many of them. Danielle's made a comment about evidence-based research. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We have a lot of research that we fall back on and that we are continuing to read and then seeing if it works, and if it doesn't, and looking to seek out what best practices to try and move the game forward here in Calgary. This is what we're trying to do, and this is the method and the methodology that we're trying to work by. So I appreciate you acknowledging that, because we are not just putting things together willy-nilly. We're really trying to be professional about this and move the game forward really well. Question about that. Group 1 is better than Group 2. Question is, how are different groups determined? Are they based on performance evaluations? Kim's answered that really. The clubs have said, well, this is where our group of players is. This is where we are going to put them. There are good players, if you will, or developmentally advanced players across all the groups. I've watched some, Dev 3 groups that had some very, very good players in it. We're not saying one is better than another. We're saying you might be more committed, more interested, more whatever than the other. So this is not a tiered system, but it tends to get interpreted that way. Question, can we put a defender to take the goal kick? Of course, no problem. Of course, but if your defender's the one who can just kick it the furthest, I would say try and find ways to play out, try and nurture that. And if it's on to play long, well, play long then, right? If the team adjusts and then it's not on to play long anymore, then don't play long, okay? How many players can be on each team? Our club seems to put very low numbers. I'm always wondering why. Some kids are away, sick, blah, blah, blah. Kim's answered the roster size question there. Why do clubs put low roster numbers in? Well, they want to maximize the playing time for each one of these kids and each one of these players, okay? So they put lower roster sizes in to make sure that you get maximum minutes. Yes, there's kids away on ski vacations or sick or they missed the bus or whatever the excuse is, but really they want to try and get as many minutes on the field for your children as possible. Because when you think about it, and I did this quick analysis when I was working for Alberta Soccer. If you've got a squad of 18 players playing 7-a-side games, the amount of time, if it's shared equally, is about 3 minutes and change that player is on the field. Now think about how long they might actually have the ball at their feet in that 3 minutes. Okay? It's not very much. And if you count the number of touches, it's going to be below 30 touches. Now keep in mind travel time, getting there early for the game, having a debrief. We're talking about potentially 3-hour commitment in the winter for 3 minutes of playtime. That doesn't make sense. You get more value putting a sheet of plywood in your house and having your child just bang a ball against that piece of plywood for half an hour than making all of that commitment. So smaller rosters, more minutes, okay? How do I get my kid to play in competitions? Well, CMSA organizes the league, so as long as they're on a team within the league, they'll be playing in competitions likely on a weekly basis, okay? Question around why are there less teams in Group 4? There's less teams there because the clubs have said, well, we're not putting as many groups and teams into that Group 4. This is the clubs working together to see where their players are at and see where their groups are and trying to group them a little closer. Okay? There just wasn't very many put in there. Is the dribble-in for corners an option as well? No, corners are not. All of those free kicks and restarts are all indirect with the U10s and 11s, and I should have said that way earlier, so if missed that, we'll make sure we send that out in a communication. So yeah, I appreciate that question as well. Something about no public scores and standings. Are referees also using paper game sheets instead of the big scoreboards to keep track of the scores? yes, we're not going to be using any sort of big scoreboards. We'll send that communication out to the referees as well. We want the scores submitted still to CMSA so that we can track and monitor this, because that meaningful competition piece is really important. And if we see that clubs are abusing the open rosters or abusing their player placement kind of processes, then we have mechanisms to remove that from them. So this is our own kind of check and balance that we want to see there. No SWU, U11 Rapids, typo. There we go. Tim's answered that. Cheers, Tim. Can you score from a dribble in without another player touching the ball? You cannot. Again, that's an indirect restart, right? So you've got to combine with someone. You've got to bank it off of the opponent, whatever it is. But it's an indirect restart, the same as a throw-in. We've moved to try and close the gap between the modified laws of the game and the IFAB laws of the game. And so IFAB laws of the game, the throw-in is an indirect restart. So we want to make sure that if we're trying to help these referees develop as well, and players for that matter, understand those laws of the game, that drip feeding in those things is important. So a dribble in and a pass in is an indirect restart that would need to be touched by another player before entering the goal. Okay. There is someone with the hand up. Again, we just accept the chat function within the questions there. I think someone might have put something in the Q&A. Does U10 team have to pay a fine if we can't reschedule a game and have to forfeit it? That would be a Kim answer for sure if I have ever seen one.
Goes for all age groups and tiers. So any team U10 or over, if you have a scheduled game, you must attend. If you don't, there's a fine, because if we do not have a game on the field permit that we had scheduled, we get fined by whichever location it is, and we also lose that permit for that specific time slot the next season.
Yeah, so we have the opportunity to return field time that we're not using 30 days in advance. Okay, so obviously the fines trickle down, unfortunately, and we no longer have access to that field permit for the next season. So it further impairs our ability to try and schedule games when we start losing field permits. That's why there is a fine system, unfortunately, in place. Okay, there's still a whole bunch of us on the call, so I'm assuming we either all fell asleep tonight or you're trying to wait around to see if someone's got a great question and you're going to pick up a golden nugget here. I'll stick around for another couple of minutes unless people are populating the chat with some more questions, and just want to say thank you again to everyone. Kim, who gets that fined, or who gets that fine and pays that fine?
Well, normally it goes directly just to the team, but the club is CC'd on that as well. So it's a conversation with your club as well, depending on what their club policy is as well.
Thank you, Kim. Okay. If there are any other questions, right, you can always go back to this. You can shoot us a quick note. You can call us in. Oh, question. Can you define the manager's role, please? Managers' roles can vary, I would say, across teams and clubs. Some are responsible for the kind of admin around the team, so things like printing game sheets, making sure they're filled out, etc. Some fundraise, some are booking tournaments and travel and the rest of it, right? So I would check in with what the expectations are of you as a manager. And we also have another webinar as well, sometime I think later this week or potentially
Wednesday
next
and
week.
Thursday.
What's that, sorry, Kim?
There's two of them. There's one Wednesday night, and
Yep.
there's also one Thursday night as well.
Amazing. Kim is a glutton for punishment, I think, on those as well.
As well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're a manager, I would recommend tuning into those because those give you tons of information in terms of that role specifically, and largely lots of that. Did I hear you say earlier you can swap players between teams to make the play fair? 100%. That's the mix them up initiative. So if it's really lopsided, the teams can literally just mix the players up between the two teams, bib them off, and they can play a game. Okay. We want that hour utilized really well. So if it's not going to be utilized really, really well with the way that it is, mix the kids up. If anything, you're developing other skills in terms of communicating. Maybe they make a new friend. Maybe they're a leader. Maybe they're a follower. That's not a bad thing. It doesn't always have to be about, well, we play a 3-2-1 and we play like this and our tactics is this. Like, they're 9 and 10 years old. Work their technique. Work on building life skills. We constantly keep saying sports about building life skills. Well, how are we intentionally building those life skills? And maybe how are we also allowing opportunities for those life skills to be being built? Okay. Some food for thought there. Should we be rotating all positions at this age or moving them more into specific positions? Well, that is a fantastic question. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll all the way back to where are we here? To this document here, where when we zoom in, okay, and when we're having a look, sorry about the motion sickness potentially there, right? This should give you some guidelines, okay? Match day formats, right? They're even Canada Soccer's even advocating for a festival format with the U10s and 11s, okay? You'll see all sorts of requirements here. You'll also see here playing time and positions. Fair playing time for all players. Coaches should target a minimum of 50% playing time for each player. Players try all positions. Okay? And I'm just being really, really clear that that's the recommendation from Canada Soccer. Okay? I would hold that same recommendation true. That would be my recommendation for 9 and 10-year-old players, that they are sampling different positions, that they are absorbing and receiving different pictures from the game from those pictures. And there's also potentially a bit of empathy that's developed when you're the goalkeeper and the players in front of you aren't doing a great job. There's a bit of empathy for the center forward when you're that center forward and you're not seeing the ball very much. You can start to learn and understand other positions as well, which, is going to maybe help you, maybe it won't, but the advocacy of players trying all positions is straight from Canada Soccer, okay? So it would be a recommendation that I would hold as well, not just because it's from CSA, but fundamentally, I think it's a good practice to be having within young developing players. Question in the chat. If we could keep all of the questions in the chat and not the Q&A, it would be more helpful. It's just tough for us to track them in the Q&A. There's a team over the outdoor season that refused to reschedule a game because they thought it should have been played, even when the ref from another game said the field was not playable. So my question is, how do we deal with something like that? Well, there shouldn't be any non-playable fields in indoor. Let's just start there. But what you would look to do is work through it with your member club. And if the clubs cannot figure that out, then obviously CMSA can get involved at that point. But it is up to the two teams to figure out that reschedule and what that looks like and when it happens. Okay. All right. So it is 9:30. This is when we said everyone can go to bed. I'm going to shut things down for tonight. I want to acknowledge everyone again for going the distance. Thanks so much if you've lasted. Looking forward to seeing you on the pitch this year and watching your children play. It is the best hours of my week when I get to do that. So Thank you all very much. Thank you for your continued curiosity and investment. And as always, looking forward to seeing you on the pitch.